I've burnt towns and punctured my ribs, kicked over cows, but it ends up like this. No matter how hard I try, oh baby, I keep coming back to you. I've put your head in a box, and you've made my world rock. No matter how hard I try, oh baby, I keep coming back to you. And I said time is on my side, and hope is in my legs and my thighs, and you are on my left side, and the Lord is on my side.
Cardiff, a Roman fort built at the mouth of 3 rivers way back in AD 55. A key location for controlling local trade, a stronghold occupied by the Normans, a bustling coal town run by the Buttes. In 1905, Cardiff was granted city status after becoming the biggest coal exporting port in the world. In 1955, it was declared the capital of Wales, beating rivals Caernarfon and Aberystwyth for the title. Today, it's a busy university city, seat of the newly formed Welsh Assembly, the Senedd, host to massive-scale sporting events at the Millennium Stadium. But with this modernity comes a darker side. Mention the phrase "booze Britain," and it seems that Cardiff is the city that most frequently comes to mind.
Hey, but I'm still in love, oh baby, so I'll keep singing these songs for you.
But there is so much more to Cardiff that national media headlines would have you believe. Cardiff is the cultural centre of Wales. It's a rich and diverse place, full of different people who all contribute to the cultural melting pot. So much goes on here. There are so many little gems hidden away.
The Lord is on my side.
Cardiffians are proud of their city and love nothing more than showing off what their city has to offer.
The Lord is on my side.
I'm from the north, and I came down to the south for uni, and then met my boyfriend and went to art college and experienced new culture, and I could really explore who I was and be a creative person. And then for me, I couldn't really do that anywhere else as much as I could do it in Cardiff, because Cardiff has such a wide creative community, and there isn't really any judgment if you want to shave your head and walk around in luminous pink tights. No one's going to judge you about it, and there's so many different subcultures, and it's just you can be whoever you want to be, and people they'll be like whatever. So yeah.
I moved to Cardiff 3 years ago because I got sick of living at home. I couldn't stick being at home anymore. There were loads of things going on in Cardiff that I sort of drove down and would watch a gig, go to the cinema and then come back, and it was miserable. So I thought I would just move here and walk to places instead. It's been a big difference.
It's really where the heart is, I guess. Doing the university thing wasn't ever for me. I wanted to get into work, and I guess it was all an extension of just wanting to be in Cardiff. And you do question whether it's small-minded, or you kind of think, is it because it's home? I've got what I want here, this place fulfills my needs.
Being just on the road, I always used to come to Cardiff anyway, and the fact that it's got such a fantastic, almost world-renowned university on my doorstep, I had the best of both worlds. In fact, I want to see my parents from Munster End, I don't have to, but if I want to take my washing home on Friday and have a Sunday lunch, then I can do that too.
Cardiff has got everything I need. I love the countryside just up the road, the beach just down the road, a lot of creative people all over Cardiff. They come from all over Britain and the world, basically. Cardiff's a multicultural centre I love.
I think Cardiff has got everything that you need, basically, as a place. It has all the activities you want from you know, for young children up to older age people. So I think there's plenty to do in Cardiff, and I think now even more so than ever.
Cardiff in the spring is wet.
Cold and wet.
Spring's typically quite rainy, so you sort of stay in, make plans with people to come round and watch terrible films. That's usually spring.
You don't know whether to take, you know, a cap or a beanie or a coat or, you know, a picnic blanket out with you, and it could all change within the next 5 minutes, I guess.
It rains for most of the spring.
I think it's when the city really comes into its own, where you can start going, oh yeah, this is the city I love. Yeah, it's coming back awake after a long slumber.
Mae Caerdydd yn y Gwanwyn I fi, fi'n meddwl yn deimlad o bod pethau'n cychwyn. Mae pobl yn dod allan o'u tai, mae pobl yn cychwyn rhyw hobbies random ac ella'n cario ymlaen yn yr ha cyn, mae'n siŵr well na dim ond fi dyn yn fel arfer wedyn yn gadael fynd.
Giant daffodils on lampposts and blossoms in Rose Park. That's spring for me.
As I drive into Cardiff, I pass quite a green area with trees, and it is covered in daffodils and crocuses, and that's absolutely beautiful to see as you go back and forth into town.
It's lovely to go for walks in the park with a scarf on and just feel the brisk air. Lovely.
Yeah, I guess spring feels quite promising in Cardiff.
Yeah, it's easy when you know how.
I'd wanted to move from Hirwaun for a long time because I found, although I loved the place because it's where I grew up, where I'm from, where my family live, I found there wasn't enough going on. So I wanted to move to Cardiff to have access to the gig venues and coffee shops, yeah, nightlife, just generally lots more going on. But I knew I'd also miss the green spaces of the valleys and the mountains surrounding me and the outdoor spaces where I could go running. So when I moved to Cardiff, I found Boot Park was perfect to provide me with that green space that I craved, right within the city, so I got the best of both worlds.
I love the parks in Cardiff. There are so many of them, and I think I'd like to run. I'm a jogger, and I think it's a nice microcosm because you're in the city and you're running, and all of a sudden it changes, and you've got trees and flowers and fresh air and running water, swans, a lighthouse, and so you completely forget that you're in a city, and you just get that breath of fresh air and that serenity that you need every now and again.
It's the fact that it's there in the middle of the city that I love. You know, you kind of turn in off a main road and within about 2 minutes you're away, you can't hear traffic. But you know, if suddenly someone's like, oh, let's go to a gig or let's go to the pub, you're right there. You can do that in like 3 seconds, and I find that kind of amazing that it's so central. You know, the castle and the park are in the middle of our city.
We do have plenty of little farms around. We do have a good farmers market. There are a few allotments around Cardiff, spread all over Cardiff. So food is available, but it would be nice to see that actually utilised more, so that more people know there is local food coming out of Cardiff.
When I moved to Cardiff, I was about 4 stone lighter than I am now. Like, I don't regret it though. The food here is insanely good. Like, everywhere you go, there's the choice of about 4 different continents worth of food.
For me, I guess Cardiff food is about those indie, undiscovered kind of places, which after almost 2 years of living in the city, I'm still kind of uncovering some. And they tend to be, I guess, in the kind of suburbs or the outer areas of Cardiff rather than the centre. Tend to be lots of chains there, I guess. But if you explore a little further, then you find loads of really good places.
You can grab a meal in Madame Fromage for £3 or £4, and it'd be way better than going to like TGI's and spending 35.
I love curry, and there's loads of good curry places. So you got Vegetarian Food Studio, where you can eat all the food in the world for about £6. You've got Purple Poppadom, which is like the other end of that, which is, you know, award-winning kind of fine dining Indian food. And then you've got everything in between, you know, and they're everywhere. So like you can get a curry wherever you like, basically.
The fact that we don't have a set cuisine as such, the fact that, you know, that we have Italians, we have Indians, we have Caribbean restaurants and stuff like that, is most probably as a result of the influx of people around the world. And rather than rue the fact that there isn't a definite taste to Cardiff, is most probably a great testament to the fact that we've welcomed everybody around the world over the years and such, and I think that's most probably a good thing.
The Cardiff meal is a Clark's pie.
The Clark's pie, it's the greatest thing on earth, I must admit.
I might be talking to someone and they'd say, oh yes, I've left Cardiff unfortunately, but the only thing I can do now is when I come back to Cardiff, I've got to go into Clark's Pies. He said, so I said, oh, do you? He said, oh yes, you can't go to Cardiff without getting a pie. And he said, oh, they're wonderful. And I said, well, I hope you don't mind, but you like Clark's Pies? Oh, I don't go without. I said, yeah, well, I said, do you know who I am? No, who are you? You're from Cardiff, aren't you? I said, yeah. I said, yeah. I'm Clark's Pies. When I finished my school, I wanted to do something that I really loved, and that was going with my parents, who had the shop with the Clark's Pies. And then times went on, and I was getting older, and the war was still on. And then when I was about 18, I was called up to go into the forces. I came out and I decided I want my own. And so my mother helped me such a lot. Some people say further away, Grangetown's a bit rough, but they were lovely people. And well, I've been working there now for many, many years, and I think they're wonderful. Clarkies, that's the usual accent.
I think there's only one phrase I can describe the taste of a Clark's pie, and that literally is angels crying on your tongue.
Summer when we get one. This is Cardiff after all, we get some rain. But again, summer is just obviously that opportunity to go around all the parks, the local sort of areas, whether it's down the bay, sit out and have a picnic somewhere, or Roath Park. I'm usually in somewhere like either Butte Park, Roath Park, up the Brecon Beacons, Caerphilly Mountain. I like to be in nature. Take the shoes off, bare feet and walk. I like to walk.
Summer is going down to the bay and having an ice cream.
Going to Greenman, where all of Cardiff relocates for a weekend.
Beer gardens, gigs outside in the park.
It is green and lovely.
Suddenly Big Park is packed in the summer, so you get lots of people coming down with blankets and food and spending the day here. Because it is so big though, I think it can accommodate loads of people and you still feel like you've got a space to yourself.
There's actually so many festivals going on all throughout the year.
that it's difficult to pick one out. I love the Cheese Festival. Cheese Festival's always good.
Quite often we've gone down to the bay and there's been, you know, like they have the multicultural mala down there, and it's amazing.
I hear that there are cider and beer festivals that people like to get into, and I'd love to try that.
I know they do a food festival down the bay.
I think the classic car sort of exhibition, it's kind of an exhibition, starts in July. I think it's only over a weekend.
For International Student Week, they bring in all types of international cuisine, and you can go around and try different foods.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on that's kind of free or is in the open air, and again it's nice because you're getting out of that sort of like very urban, you're in your street, you're in your box as such, and you're enjoying some of the more open spaces in Cardiff. So it's nice to get to some of these things, yeah.
Green Man is a festival that takes place every August, I think, in Glynnesk National Park, at the foot of the Brecon Beacons, which is, you sort of look at the main stage and there's this mountain towering over everything, making whatever it is you're watching look really small and insignificant. Typically, all of the rainfall that happens in South Wales occurs during that weekend, usually completely wiping everyone out, getting them to sleep in their cars, or just generally sacking the entire thing off, just because it's grim.
Photo marathon happens in the summer, and it's this kind of bizarre day where you kind of give up your day, and you get given different topics throughout the day, and they're normally kind of one-word topics, so they're, you know, vastly open to interpretation. And so you get like I can't even think how many people register for it, but it's a lot. So you know, when I did it, everyone doing it kind of filled the Millennium Centre, the kind of lobby, you know, and there's this big kind of starting point where you get given the first 3 topics, and everyone kind of runs outside as if they're going to do it like in the next 5 minutes, and then realises that they've got no idea what they're going to do, which is really not. You have this kind of, you know, half an hour of sitting, people like look really confused and really kind of frantic about what they're going to do. I ended up making an invisible man from one of the I can't even remember what the topic was, but you know, it was like frantically like stitching together, you know, a straw hat, some sunglasses, and trying to wire it all up and like take it into town and like get a photo of it that didn't have anyone's arm in and things like that. And you know, it's the one time like kind of you're forced into the situation. You know, I wouldn't ever kind of think, well, I'll go into town with like this elaborate invisible man that I've created and take a photo on Queen Street. That would probably like, you know, mortify me most other days. But you know, because you're kind of against the clock and you want to get it done, then you find you're much more willing to kind of just go nuts and do these things, and you know, who cares who's looking, kind of thing. You get this city-wide kind of coverage of the same day, but through all, you know, a lot of different people's eyes, and I think that's really nice.
I kind of think sport's very much the beating heart of Cardiff in some respects. I know that, I mean, I used to travel most weekends out of the country with my sort of previous company and my previous work. And when I first started doing that, I very much had to explain Cardiff as kind of this place that was 2 hours west of London. Whereas then there was this kind of pivotal point where the FA Cup was coming to Cardiff, and I'd go out and people would be, oh yeah, Cardiff, you know, when I go to North Carolina or to Stockholm or to Tokyo, and people would know where Cardiff was because the FA Cup's watched all over the world, and you know, to a lesser extent people watching the Rugby World Cup. So yeah, I mean, obviously sport is really integral to the city. You've got so much world-class sport going on within a mile or two of the city centre, but also a lot of the world's eyes were sort of turned towards us, particularly when we had the FA Cup. And also just friends around the UK who obviously knew of Cardiff, but they'd come to watch their team at the FA Cup final, and they'd come out, and instead of Wembley where you come out and there's a burger van in a car park, you come out in Cardiff and it's like, wow, restaurants, clubs, cinemas, you know, you've got the whole city sort of there for you to kind of play with, which just makes it quite unique. So yeah, sport is both intrinsic to the city from a local point of view, but also international, because people just know who we are.
I'm actually really not a sports person at all, but I can't ignore the rugby here, really. My boyfriend's a big rugby fan, so I've got sucked into it. And went to my first match during the Six Nations. I went to see Scotland versus Wales. From what other people tell me, it wasn't a good match, but I had a great time. You get completely sucked into the atmosphere. You're with like thousands and thousands of people all screaming, and you get completely absorbed in it. It's very emotional.
Oh, the environment on rugby days is so much fun. I've been down to City Centre when Wales plays, you know, whoever, and there's people everywhere, green and red, everything, face painting, body painting, head to toe Wales attire, just so much spirit within City Centre, and people are running in every different direction. There's kids everywhere, and it's just there's just an energy in the air. And I think I live about 1.5 to 2 miles from Millennium Stadium, and sometimes I can hear the fans because it just gets so excited. I mean, it just gets so energetic.
It's just a huge community, and if you're not wearing a rugby shirt, you're wearing something in Welsh, or you've got a daffodil on your head or something else to identify you.
There's so many different diverse sports communities outside of what you would consider to be the norm. You take the roller derby, for example. That's a funny little underground movement that has turned into something which is remarkable. You know, I've been to one of the bouts of the Tiger Bay Brawlers, and it was down in the Newport Centre. What a show that is!
I think everyone's kind of first experience of roller derby is like, what the hell is going on here?
It's a full contact sport played on quad roller skates, so not blades, the old style disco skates. Each team fields 5 skaters at a time, 4 blockers, 1 jammer. You all skate in the same direction on an oval track. The jammer is your point scorer. Your objective as a blocker is to get your jammer out so she can lap the pack as many times as possible and score a point for each opposing player she passes. So you're playing offense in that way, but defensively you're also trying to stop the other team's jam from scoring. And it's played in a series of 2-minute jams over an hour game. Brawlers were formed officially in April 2010, and we started just teaching ourselves, and it was from sort of, you can get footage online, there's loads of footage. There's the WFTDA, the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, is just an absolute source of knowledge. We started bouting less than a year after we formed. And then just built on that success really and continued. We've now got A and B teams. We've got a junior team and held the first junior roller derby bout in the UK last year. And yeah, now we're competing at a fairly high level. We've just come back from the tournament where we came second out of the 10 teams in Europe who played. And I think in the rankings at the moment we're 5th in Europe, and there's like 270 odd teams off the top of my head.
That's kind of really exciting to have this like in your hometown where, like, you know, it's a relatively new sport in the UK, and you know the team in your hometown is doing really well at it.
Our fans are mental. Like, I think initially, like, we sold out our first bout. We didn't know how it was going to go. The first time roller derby being played in Wales, and like we sold out the Newport Centre, which is only 600 people, but quite a lot of people to come and see something that's never been done before. And they've just stuck with us throughout everything. It definitely is a family-friendly sport. A lot of the girls who play have kids, so their kids come. Like the diversity of our fans in terms of age range is huge. My grandparents have come. They did not enjoy seeing me get hit, but my grandfather loved it.
You'll have people who go as like this kind of, you know, drinking night out, and they'll be building pyramids of beer cans around the side of the track, just hoping that a skater comes flying off and destroys this pyramid of beer. Which I've seen happen once in, 3 years, but was a spectacular moment when it finally occurred. I don't really have it. It's just grey, isn't it? Cardiff in the autumn, grey. Is there much more?
Autumn is gigging season. You're either
playing a gig or you're going to see one and you're cramming everything in to do that.
Cardiff in the autumn is the start of the new academic year.
And it's the return of the students, so it's lots of parties on my street into the wee hours.
It must be all the
Cardiff is a uni city, and I think it's embraced as part of the culture of the city. It's why most people live here that I know. We all came to Cardiff and just didn't go home.
When term ends, the entirety of the student population disperses.
I work in club playing pop music to kids, and you really notice in the summer when there's no kids there to play pop music to.
When you're in university, you obviously be in halls in the first year, whatever, and then, you know, after that, people live in Cathays, or they live in Roath. And there's this, you know, this whole kind of little student community there, you know, along City Road and, you know, in that kind of area that it can be a bit kind of scuzzy, I suppose, you know, but, you know, I wouldn't necessarily want to live over there now. But what I find really interesting is when you kind of, you know, you finish uni and maybe you get your first, like, job outside of uni, people slowly kind of, I don't know, like, kind of gravitate to the other side of the river. And that's almost like the growing up process in Cardiff is like when you move to the other side of the castle and then you live in like a nice house that isn't, you know, falling down and doesn't kind of have loads of damp. And this is just my experience. Obviously, you might have a really nice house in Cathay as well then. But, you know, there's this kind of thing where, you know, you and all your friends have all moved to Canton and there's someone still on the other side of the river and they get kind of like left. You know, I don't hang around with them anymore until they kind of, you know, until they move over to Canton with you, and then you're like, yeah, welcome over to the, you know, the grown-up side.
So the difference in Cardiff, when the students are here and when they're not, is basically it's quieter, and you've got somewhere to park outside your own house, which is quite nice.
The music scene in Cardiff is pretty incestuous. You can't sort of go to a gig in Cardiff on your own. You'll end up meeting a bunch of people there. I tend to get tickets for things and just instinctively know, without preparing beforehand, that you'll go there and there'll be 4 or 5 faces that you recognise from every other gig in Cardiff.
I've always come to Cardiff to watch bands. When I lived in Hirwaun, I'd usually drive here a couple of times a week to come to different gigs. And when I first moved to Cardiff, I overloaded possibly and went to about 4 or 5 every week for about a year. But it's brilliant. I think any night of the week in Cardiff that you want to go and see a gig, you can. I think for lots of music fans in Cardiff, Soon Festival in October has to be the highlight.
Soon's a really, really amazing part of the city. It's about 60 gigs, or about 2 or 3 months worth of music happening in a weekend, and it's a stupid excuse to go and hang out with all your favourite people, all in about 100 square yards. It shouldn't make any sense at all, but it's just an excuse to hang out with lovely people, listen to some good music, and get drunk, and meet new people as well. That's something that always happens at Soon. You sort of, because everyone's in such a compressed space, it's like an amplified version of Cardiff. Everyone's already in this small space, but then you're in a tiny part of that small space, and you're just forced to get on with all these new people. It's brilliant. It's my favourite.
It always amazes me every year how good it is, and the fact that it's on your doorstep and you don't have to camp afterwards. You can go home and sleep in your own bed and then start again the next day.
What do you think we do all day? What do you think we do all day?
Winter is about family and friends and spending time together.
Winter is burning your mouth on a hot donut from one of those cabins and that just sort of appear in town.
It's a time where we get Winter Wonderland. Is a time where my kids talk about it all the way leading up to it, and for about 2 or 3 months afterwards asking can they still go to Winter Wonderland. So it's magical. It's Christmas in the city kind of time, isn't it, you know?
Winter in Cardiff is probably my favourite season, just because the atmosphere is so Christmassy. Winter Wonderland takes over the city, the skyline is dominated by the big turning swing. It's just a really, really lovely atmosphere.
Makes life.
Christmas in Cardiff is, for me, is just the markets. Like, as soon as the markets and the bratwurst stall are up, then it's Christmas. It's just mainly, rather than the people at Christmas, I think for me Cardiff at Christmas is the sights and sounds and smells. Like just walking through the city centre, you just get a sense that it is Christmas, and there's a sense of excitement and kids everywhere because of all the pantomimes. Yeah, again, it's just an exciting place to be all the time.
Dwi'n gwybod, mae'n deimlad cynnas iawn. Mae'r teimlad agosad dwi'n meddwl ydy pan mae rhyw deimlad bod cymuned yn dod at ei gilydd rwsyd yng Nghaerdydd, yn Dolig. Mae pob allan, mae'n siŵr, achos o farchnadoedd. Mae'r gola, wrth gwrs, yn wedi bob dim edrych yn rili neis. Hyd yn oed os ar y llawr mae pawb dal wedi meddwi ac yn chwdu ar y llawr. Mae'r ffaith bod yna ola uwch I penna nhw'n neud yn rili neis. So yeah, dwi'n licio Dolig yn Nghaerdydd, lot.
I found that the general feeling in Cardiff is that it's quite laid back, that there's a big feeling of community. I think it's to do with the size of Cardiff as well. It's not your usual sort of big expansive city, it's actually quite a compact city.
It's a tiny city, it's ridiculous. You can't go from one place to another without bumping into at least one person that you know for a nice little chat. It's really lovely. The best bit about Cardiff, easily.
Yeah, it's a case of that's maybe even 3 degrees of separation because everybody seems to know, if you don't know them directly, your friend knows them. It's a small place, it's a big mind I think, but a very small place, so you know, even if you don't know somebody, one of your close friends does. It's a strange thing about Cardiff. It's a village, but a city and its own little self-contained country, it seems like sometimes.
They say that in sort of these modern times that our friends are our family now because we don't all live within 5 miles of our family as we would have done generations ago. And a small city like Cardiff just makes it really easy for you to be close to your sort of adopted family. You know, I'm never more than a mile or 2 from a sort of metaphorical brother or sister or cousin, you know.
Dwi'n gwybod gen I unrhyw gylch y Llundain, dweud gwir. Oedd gynna fi ffrindiau, a mae'n cymryd, ti'n gorfod gwneud appointment mewn 6 mis cynt mwyn I chdi weld dy ffrind am banad neu peint. So o'n i'n licio hynna gwbl. Dwi'n licio fama bod fi'n gallu piciad draw I tu rhywun, a mae hynna'n... Dwi'n colli hynna adra, so mae hynna'n balans reit neis, bod fi ddim yn byw yn pagedi neb, ond bod pobl yn gallu gael o draw, bod fi'n gallu gael o draw pan dwi eisiau.
I've been looking at the Facebook page.
Cardiff is constantly changing, and it's been a pleasure really to go along and see, to be a part of the changes of Cardiff and to see it improve so much. I've always felt that Cardiff is a really good place to live, to work and to play, and I think that's just going to get better.
Cardiffians are proud of their city and love showing it off to the world. But the city would be nothing without the people who live there. The people who proudly say, "We are Cardiff."
Give me a moment to adjust to the change, to a world in which I now have a brother. Before you Shanghai me to be your shrink, I think you owe me another drink.
My mum says I have his eyes, I think she's trying to be nice, but I feel like she's cursing my future.
You think because you're scared you'll mess up just like he did, or are you trying to store
the amount my father paid. My life began a conception in an alleyway. I am just a mistake my parents made.
If self-pity was the currency, I'd make you buy drinks for everyone in here.
This isn't how I meant this talk to go. There's just so many things I want to know, and I was hoping perhaps that you could fill in the gaps.
What makes you think that I'll have all the answers? Victor goes, something's wrong, but so does everyone. I wasn't old enough to even remember. And the daughter of a disgraced local dignitary. Maybe you should be grateful for your black slate, but try living life with gossip for your history. In the shadow of a mistake your parents made.
In the end, I think my mother chose to seek a simple life over perfection. She says you end up losing all your hair, trying to make every last thing fair.
Your mum says you have his eyes, I think she's probably right, at least as far as I can tell from the pictures. But even if that is true, it would still be up to you to decide that your life will be different. Our births were an announcement, not a prophecy.
We are more than just strands of DNA.
You cannot write a life story with only ACG and T.
We are not the mistakes our parents made. Our births were an announcement, not a prophecy. We are more than just strands of DNA. You cannot write a life story in A's and C's and G's and T's. We are not the mistakes our parents made.
Oh, bloody hell. Right, this is the thing about Cardiff, right? We've been here for how long? Alright, Gar?
I'm going to cycle right through your photo shoot. Ruin everything.
You bastard! Alright. What's happening?
Just ruined everything.
You haven't ruined everything. This is exactly the point, Gar. Come here.
This is going to be it.
Right, Gar.
Alright, John.
This is Gareth Butter from a load of stuff.
A load of stuff.
Yeah, but largely from playing records in Cardiff.
Largely.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing anything about Cardiff and
right.
how tiny and incestuous it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Everyone knows everyone.
Everyone knows everyone. And I've been sat here for like 20 minutes and I've already bumped into you without moving.
That's it.
Cardiff is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.